Welcome back to the .NET Way. This is episode 3 of our .NET Core interview series. In today's session, we'll dive deep into two files that every .NET Core developer should master, Startup.cs and Program.cs. These are the backbone of any ASP.NET Core application. Arohi is here with us again to answer all the key questions. Let's begin. Arohi, let's begin with Program.cs. What does it do?
Program.cs is the entry point of a .NET Core application. It defines and builds the host that runs the app. In earlier versions, it uses Create Host Builder, and in .NET 6.7 Plus, it uses the minimal hosting model where everything starts from var builder equals web application.createBuilder args.
How does Startup.cs work together with Program.cs?
In .NET Core 3.1 and 5, Program.cs configures the host and points to Startup.cs where services and middleware are defined. It does this via use Startup.cs. In .NET 6 Plus, we can configure everything directly in Program.cs, but splitting logic is still a good practice for clarity.
What are the responsibilities of the two core methods in Startup.cs?
ConfigureServices, iService collection services, is used to register services with the dependency injection container. Configure, IApp, iWebSocket environment env, defines the request pipeline and middleware order. This separation follows the configure DI and configure middleware pattern.
How important is the order of middleware in configure?
Very important. Middleware in ASP.NET Core executes in the order it's registered. If, for example, exception handling or authentication middleware is placed incorrectly, it may not work or even break the pipeline. The correct order ensures that requests and responses are processed properly.
What services do you typically register in ConfigureServices?
Common registrations include controllers, AddControllers DXD, AddDbContext, authorization, Swagger, logging providers, and custom services like repositories or email services.
How has Program.cs changed in the newer versions of .NET?
.NET 6 introduced the minimal hosting model. There's no Startup.cs by default. Everything from service registration to middleware setup is done inside Program.cs. It simplifies small apps, but for larger apps, modularizing still helps maintainability.
If we prefer the old pattern, can we still use Startup.cs?
Yes, absolutely. We can still use builder-host.configure defaults and use startup to maintain the same structure. This is useful in enterprise apps that follow layered architecture or need separation of concerns.
Where do you store environment-based values like connection strings?
They go into appsettings.json or environment-specific files like appsettings.development.json. In Program.cs or Startup.cs, we inject interface and bind those values to strongly typed classes using configuration.getSection.
How do you handle different logic for development versus production?
In Configure, we can check env is development and set up things like developer exception page or Swagger only for local environments. This ensures production remains clean and secure.
Let's wrap this up with best practices. What would you recommend?
Keep service registrations organized using extension methods. Separate concerns by grouping middleware setup and configuration. Avoid putting heavy logic directly in Startup.cs. Use environment checks carefully and don't hard-code configuration values.
Thanks, Arohi. That was a deep and practical walkthrough of Startup.cs and Program.cs. These files often get overlooked, but they control everything under the hood in an ASP.NET Core app. If you learned something new today, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the .NET Way. In episode 4, we'll compare .NET Framework, .NET Core, and .NET 8, and discuss how to choose the right one for your project. Thanks for watching. See you next time.